Now, the ANC wrapped up its National Elective Conference with the announcement of additional NEC members. There have been mixed reaction to the composition, with a notable omission of organised labour. Former KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli, who was elected at the National Conference, has called on the party to focus on its internal capacity and the quality of those it deploys in government if it aims to give real meaning to its renewal programme. Mdumiseni Ntuli, ANC NEC member, joins me now for a discussion. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. I suppose congratulations are in order. You're number 4 on the list. Were you expecting it?
Good morning, Mpho. Good morning to the viewers of Newzroom Afrika as well. And thanks a lot. I think I firstly have to convey my gratitude to the membership of the ANC and structures of our movement throughout the country who supported my elections into the National Executive Committee of the ANC. And I also would like to say that I, together with the rest of my colleagues who are elected in the NEC, have a very serious responsibility to lead our movement at the point where it is today, because in my own view, we find ourselves in the crossroads, and the choice that we make between now and the nearest future will determine the survival of our great movement. So I'm very excited that a lot of us who are elected in that NEC, relatively younger, but with an experience, talent, and I think many of us, all of us, are very committed to the cause of our movement. It would ensure that the ANC succeed, and if the ANC succeeds, South Africa will also succeed.
There must be some relief of some sort from your end, because you were reported to be very concerned about the possible existence of an NEC ballot paper that had been circulating apparently widely without your name or that of KZN Premier Sihle Zikalala. You even went as far as saying, if the reports were true, that you would suggest that there was a personal vendetta against yourself and Zikalala. I mean, going and coming out of that to now landing on that list and making it to quite a crucial number. How are those dynamics at play compared to where you're standing now?
Mpho, there was an allegation, a circulating allegation that not a ballot paper per se, but a list of members to be considered for election by the delegates coming from KwaZulu-Natal. There was an allegation that a list was being circulated by some amongst our leadership, which had excluded myself and Comrade Zikalala. And of course, naturally, I was very concerned about that, primarily because, as you know, myself and Zikalala are the immediate predecessors of the current leadership as the then provincial chair and provincial secretary, respectively. So it would have been very concerning that such a development was happening within and among the delegates of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. I raised the matter with my provincial secretary as well as the deputy provincial chairperson of the ANC. I think we found each other on that question. And I'm very excited about the fact that we were ultimately elected into the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Primarily because, you know, KwaZulu-Natal is one of the strategic provinces of the ANC. And I've said this on many occasions, that if the ANC were to succeed between now and into the future, it must ensure that it resonates with the overwhelming majority of our people, at least in 4 major provinces of our country: KZN, Gauteng province, the Western Cape, where you've got the biggest economies, the biggest population, and also the Eastern Cape, which is the traditional base of the African National Congress for many years. So when anything negative happens or is alleged to be happening in any of those provinces, which may compromise and diminish the prestige and the unity and cohesion of the African National Congress, and not that other provinces are not important, but I'm saying if anything happens in those that have counted and is negative to the ANC, it leaves all of us very much concerned and worried, because it might have a very direct impact into the future of our movement.
And looking at the composition of the top 7 leadership, I mean, there is no KZN representative. Is that something of concern, especially with the challenges internally, the factionalism at play when it comes to the projections leading to the 2024 general elections? What's been cited in terms of what the outcome will be?
I don't think that it will have negative implication to the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal or the ANC in general. Of course, given the strategic location of KwaZulu-Natal historically and today, it is always tactically correct to have somebody from KwaZulu-Natal as part of the apex leadership of the ANC. But it doesn't mean that if it has not occurred, it does not happen, therefore it will bring terrible consequences to the ANC, either in KZN or in national as a whole. What I think is going to be very important now, it's a very dynamic relationship that has to exist between the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal and the National Executive Committee of the ANC, particularly because our opponents in KwaZulu-Natal, in the form of the IFP, usually abuses the fact that nobody serves in the apex leadership of the ANC, in the top 7 or top 6 of the ANC, top 7 today of the ANC, as the basis to exploit tribal mobilization on the ground, disseminating information to the extent that the ANC is no longer interested to the people of KwaZulu-Natal or to the Zulus, so to say, because of not having anybody occupying a senior position at the national level. And because historically, up until 5 years ago, and from these 5 years we're starting now, we've always had somebody, at least since 1994, from KZN in that part of the apex leadership. Then the IFP's agenda has always been to exploit that, especially recently after the National Elective Conference in 2017. We can defeat that because the population in KwaZulu-Natal today is quite different from the population that it was immediately after 1994. Hence, the ANC succeeded in 2004 up to today to garner the majority of the support base of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, because these people of KwaZulu-Natal, a majority of them have turned their backs on tribal politics. They are now focusing on what works better for them, and they are now focusing on what will be the better life for them. And they know that nobody else stands for that direction except the African National Congress. So I think the leadership of the ANC in the province and ourselves in the NEC, we must resist that temptation, and I'm sure we're going to defeat it because we have no reason but to be united towards the consolidation of KwaZulu-Natal moving into the future.
Yeah, renewal and unity have essentially been the operative words coming out of the conference. And when it comes to the work that needs to come ahead of ensuring that that goal of unity and renewal is achieved, do you think that the two are interlinked and they can happen at the same time, or is it a case of trying to achieve them in their separate elements?
No, they've got to go hand in glove, in a sense that you see, Mpho, the immediate tasks of the African National Congress, let me say over the next 10 years, is the renewal of the ANC, so that the ANC becomes a strong machinery and effective, a truly effective instrument on the hands of our people to build a better life for all. But the second urgent task of attendant that the ANC has to attend to is the transformation of the economy in order to deal with the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Those are two central challenges, in my own view, that faces the movement today, because unless you have a renewed African National Congress, you would not have the ANC deployed cadres post-2024 general elections who are capable to deal with the crisis in the energy sector, to deal with the crime and corruption challenges that we're facing, to move ahead decisively with the transformation of the economy in order to ensure that the economy serves the majority of our people. Of course, this agenda of the renewal of the movement is not going to be a painless exercise. It will impose a certain pain in the movement, because there would be instances where there are certain people who have been in the ANC for quite some time, but whose conduct and behavior and attitude is completely at variance with what the ANC stands for, as a consequence of which the ANC will have to say to them, in order for the survival of the ANC and in order for the NTR to remain on track, we don't need you in the ANC. We may very well need you as a supporter of the ANC but we don't need you as part of the membership of the ANC, because the behavior and the conduct we are displaying in society and in population undermine the very prestige and the standing of our movement in the eyes of our people. So in that sense, there will have to be, the leadership will have to undertake that exercise, understanding that we have to unite, but we also have to renew. And we can't say if renewal affects the unity of the ANC, we must therefore abandon renewal. The two actually should not be mutually exclusive. They must reinforce each other, because what we need within the ANC is genuine members of the ANC, not people who have come to the ANC for their own nefarious objectives.
You've often been quoted as saying that when it comes to the ANC and KZN, it's in a precarious position because of Jacob Zuma and his troubles with the law. I mean, we've just seen the outcome of his bid to privately prosecute President Cyril Ramaphosa. When it comes to some of the elements that you were raising just now, when it comes to the quality of membership, how much relevance do you think there is with the former President Jacob Zuma? I mean, we saw him coming into conference, notoriously, fashionably late as he came in and disrupted the president. When it comes to his position and perhaps what's needed from him to steer the party forward in garnering support in KZN, do you think that there's still some relevance and substance there?
Every member of the ANC Mpho has a responsibility to contribute in ensuring that the ANC succeeds in its mission. And of course, I've seen what you are talking about as it was unfolding in the National Conference of the ANC. And I think many of us who are in the NEC and our leadership here in KwaZulu-Natal will have to reflect on what happened in the National Conference, what lessons have been learned, what are we going to do moving forward. I think there is a lot of internal conversation that has to take place within the ANC leadership in KwaZulu-Natal, but also between the ANC leadership in KwaZulu-Natal and ourselves as members of the National Executive Committee in general, and members of the National Executive Committee in particular, those who are coming from KwaZulu-Natal. There's a great deal of conversation that must happen about how to manage some of the very complex and challenging situations involving President Zuma, and how that would be impacting or is actually impacting on the standing of the ANC and the work that the ANC has to undertake in KwaZulu-Natal. I think it would be important that at this stage one would be much more comfortable to say there is a greater need for us to close the doors and talk to one another as comrades inside and emerge out of that discussion with a particular commitment about how each one of us will be contributing to the survival of our movement, but also to defend the gains that the NTR has actually secured over the past few years and to advance even further.
You've very lastly put up your hand to become the new ANC spokesperson after losing there to current ANC SG Fikile Mbalula. How is that conversation going? Have you put anything on paper? Can we expect you as the new spokesperson?
I'm glad you're asking this question. Actually, Mpho, I never really put up my hand for anything. I only put up my hand to be elected as the SG, and that did not happen. I also put up my hand to be elected as a member of the National Executive Committee. And as a member of the NEC, it is really upon the SG and the top 7 to determine what kind of responsibilities each one of us must be assigned to. I never said I wanted to be the national spokesperson of the ANC. There were some journalists and other people in the social media were writing about it. And there was somebody who was circulating a fake Twitter account purporting to be myself, that I've raised my name or my hand for the position of the national spokesperson of the... I haven't done so. And I even said to the SG himself that, look, I grew up in the ANC. I'm still growing up, of course, I'm still young. I grew up in the ANC, in the organizing unit of the ANC, working as an organizer. Later on, the ANC said I should be a spokesperson. Later on, I became the provincial secretary of the ANC. So I think the ANC knows me very well. It will decide what's best for the ANC, for which I should be responsible for. So not necessarily that I'm campaigning for any role. I'm in the NEC now, I'm very much content with that, and I know the SG will deploy me like the rest of other members of the NEC to various provinces to do political work, and for me that will be sufficient. It doesn't necessarily have to be more than that. If anything more and above a deployment to a province comes along the way, it will be because the top 7 has decided this would be necessary for me to do, and I will take it, whatever it is.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us. All the best to you. Of course, leaving it there with number 4 on the ANC NEC composition, Mdumiseni Ntuli. They're speaking to us and reacting on some of the internal dealings within the ANC. Now,